Good old Isekai. Who doesn't love watching a person from Earth be randomly transported or reborn into a fantasy world where they're super overpowered and have the responsibility to save everyone? The Isekai genre has been getting more and more popular over the years, with No Game No Life and ReZero being the most recent popular Isekai. Now, what makes this genre so damn popular? The common element of these shows seems to always center around a protagonist who's a dork in real life but suddenly becomes a huge Chad with every single girl falling for him. Now, let me be clear, that's freaking amazing, who wouldn't want that? But the ratings of isekais are never that high even though the viewership is. That is, until this show appeared in 2021 called Mushoku Tensei, Jobless Reincarnation. Now, I know what people are thinking. What makes this show different from the other shows? Well, Mushoku Tensei is built different from the other isekais based on the fact that the characters are not horny, like every other show. Come on, the protagonist, Rudeus Greyrat, is a loving, endearing boy who respects women. His father and mother always make sure to act accordingly around their kid. The maid wears glasses and is a typical responsible character. The teacher has no interest in being horny, and this woman refuses to allow men to defile her sacred body. Alright, so it does seem that Mushoku Tensei resides in a cliche horny environment, but that doesn't matter. Just because all the characters are horny doesn't mean that the show is bad. It's everything else: the world building, the depth, variety, and development of the characters, what the show's message is, and how it is delivered. Mushoku Tensei builds on these elements in a way that I have not seen many other shows do. We've only seen a sliver of the show so far, but if it continues to build in the way that we've seen, it could definitely go down as a monumental show talked about for years to come. Mushoku Tensei starts off as most isekai with their protagonist being a bum on Earth with no friends or social life who suddenly gets killed after a fateful encounter with our friend Truck-kun. However, this time it's a little different. The protagonist is a 34-year-old man who is an absolute scumbag that does nothing but jerk off in a dark room in his parents' house. Like, my goodness, look at this face. He gets reborn as Rudeus Greyrat into the fantasy world with his memories intact and gets hyped when he realizes how hot his mom is. He grows up as a baby and discovers that the world is filled with magic and animal people. However, this is when the generic plot of Mushoku Tensei ends. What do we usually see with other isekai shows? They usually try to speedrun through the story and make the protagonist into the biggest Chad ever. They become super overpowered and suddenly become the coolest person ever where the world has to revolve around them. They go from not talking to anyone to suddenly getting every girl they meet to fall in love with them. Mushoku Tensei doesn't use this format. No, they spend time on building the world and creating a story. The first couple of episodes are spent on explaining what magic is, how it works, and the time required to learn magic. Rudeus spends time learning from a teacher, and we see that even though he's very talented, he isn't a godly figure who can go toe-to-toe with enemy bosses. Not only is there magic, but we see that swordsmanship is also prominent. I don't know if I've ever said this after watching magic-based anime, but swords and physical weapons are useful. Oh my god, no way, weapons can actually hurt people. Wow. The show really dives into the power system and makes sure that the audience understands. I would love to explain it, but that topic requires a whole video to itself. To be fair and honest, the beginning of Mushoku Tensei is definitely not climatic like other popular shows, such as Attack on Titan blowing up an entire village or fighting curses in Jujutsu Kaisen. I found myself wondering at times when the big gloomy danger or some historical mystery would appear, but I just didn't care. Instead of the world revolving around Rudeus and him making it, it seemed as if we were just following a character in a show, if that makes sense. Every single character was important and we learned about them. Gosh, I have watched so many different shows where they introduce parents or companions but never build on them. These side characters are used as worthless placeholders for the main character. However, Mushoku Tensei masterfully avoids this problem. Let me start off with Rudeus, the main protagonist. Now, I know that a lot of people probably dislike this guy right from the start of the show. He's a 34-year-old man with no morals or respect. We were introduced to him beating his meat to some cartoons instead of attending his parents' funeral. This trash bag dies and is granted a miracle to grow up inside a handsome, wealthy child's body who's constantly sliding in girls' DMs. Now, I'm definitely not saying his actions are right, but that's not what the show is trying to imply. We can see that he isn't just growing up physically, but also mentally. He's trying to become a better person and make the right choices. He shows regret and shame for the mistakes that he's made in the past and also the ones in the present. He's not the generic isekai protagonist who always makes the right heroic choices and saves everyone. There are moments when he acts as a pretentious know-it-all, but there are also times when he is truly ashamed for what he's done. We are following a character who is given a new opportunity to fix his once selfish behavior. Mushoku Tensei runs with this second chance at life element with many of their other characters. Rudeus' dad is clearly a scummy womanizer, and the show makes sure that you know. His dad makes mistakes, jumping to conclusions and doing immoral things, but we can also see that he is a young man in his early 20s trying to be a great father. He wants to teach Rudeus good morals and is unsure how to act because his kid is labeled as a genius prodigy. Every parent wants their kid to look up to them, and we witness his internal battle on how to teach Rudeus. Sylphie and Roxy are both kind of outcasts in their community and lose all of their confidence whenever they're around people. However, it just takes one moment for them to realize that they should face their problems head-on instead of running away from them. Sylphie stands up to the bullies. Roxy finally accepts for who she is and opens up to her close ones. We see this with so many other characters. Ghislaine or Rouged, they all combat internal identity struggles and wish to prove to others that their past doesn't define for who they are. Ghislaine was a coward and Rouged was betrayed. They are ashamed of what they've done and have diligently worked to gain respect. The dialogue and depth of the characters are so important to Mushoku Tensei's early growth. It's evident that the first season of Mushoku Tensei starts off slow. Heck, I was wondering if the show was accidentally labeled as an isekai instead of a slice of life. But the way this show progressed reminded me a lot of Shinsekai Yori. Both shows stayed interesting without the need to introduce a world-threatening war early in the show like how isekai tends to do. I mean, I totally understand the reason why isekai is quite popular. Who wouldn't want all of their problems and mistakes to be swept under the rug and become the new hero of a new world? But that's not how life works, and this is what makes Mushoku Tensei so special. The moment when I realized this was when I saw that Rudeus carried his past trauma of his old life into his new one. Although the protagonist is transported into another world, he is still the same person on the inside. You don't just change who you are right away. If you're scared of the dark, then you're scared of the dark. It doesn't change depending on where you are or how you look. We see what goes inside of Rudeus' head and how he views himself. He is still haunted by what happened to him in his old life and nearly has a panic attack when he is forced to step outside of his comfort zone. But Rudeus slowly realizes that the thing that made him paranoid in his past doesn't apply to him anymore. It's a self-realization that his identity is not set in stone and that he can move on in life, enabling his anxiety to go away. We see the look of jubilance and hope on his face as he knows that he can better himself and hurdle obstacles that were once too high for him. Rudeus and this super violent girl named Eris, who Rudeus is grooming to become his future waifu, gets kidnapped. The whole time, Rudeus is thinking that the kidnappers are fake and just a part of his fail-proof plan to teach Eris some manners. When I was first watching, I wasn't really invested in the situation. I thought it was a simple, oh, weak bad guys kidnap us and we escape with the overpowered abilities of the protagonist. Rudeus is practically trolling the whole time and thinks that his magic is enough to solve any issue. Up to this point in the show, all we saw were characters praising Rudeus for learning magic quickly. That is until when he almost dies. Near deaths are nothing new to anime. The protagonist of every action-adventure show is faced with near certain death until a last-second rescue. But what threw me off was the look of paranoia and horror on Rudeus' face as he stared at the bloody, decapitated body in front of him. Up until now, everything had been easy for Rudeus. He acted as if he was in a game and that there was always a way out of a situation. He stares at death directly in front of him and knows that he's been taking this life for granted. He may not have another chance. In contrast, Eris is jumping with joy and laughing as if this is nothing new and happens every day. It was only for a moment, but the bright, happy, adventurous atmosphere enveloping Mushoku Tensei became dark and dreary. Now, it doesn't become stupid, gory, or appalling, but it gives you a sense of reality in the show that nothing is for certain. If you die, you die. There is no power of friendship or big Chad energy that's going to prevent the characters from feeling pain or misery. There is so much invested in creating the characters and the world of Mushoku Tensei. The makings of the world, who the characters are, what they feel, and how the show's messages are conveyed to the audience makes us feel as if we're physically watching the journey unfold. The animation and sound are incredible, and even though there is still so much to discover with the story, the way it's moving forward right now, Mushoku Tensei may become the anime that revolutionizes Isekai. Hey guys, thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe to show some support, and comment down below what you guys think of Mushoku Tensei. Anyway, I'll see you guys next time.